lost generation just found its voice.
America's first competition talk show.
You're in the Hub.
Good day. Welcome to the Hub Internet Show. I'm your host, Joel Aaron. All week long on the show, we have Stephen, Greg, Whitney, and Nate sitting high in the saddle. And we are, there's scientists do all kinds of crazy studies. They have just now revealed they're calling out biologists around the globe and those who have said definitively that the animal populations, animal species are becoming extinct. They are now finding out that a third of the animals that they called extinct in the last 100 or so years are back again. I mean, it's just like back like a bad habit. They've got this one animal that they call the okapi. It looks like God had ADD, got bored halfway through the job of creating a zebra-horse mix, and only did the stripes halfway up, and then quit. I guess it was the seventh day or something. But the thing is, these things keep coming back up, and I think this is so much like the environment, the global warming hysteria. They just, is it just me, or do they just have this insatiable desire to jump to conclusions? Greg?
Well, we all saw Jurassic Park. They were able to bring back dinosaurs. So I'm wondering if these are man-made, like Dr. Frankenstein is bringing these back, or if it's just basically naivety from the scientific community that says, hey, we don't know if we think they're dead. We haven't seen one in a while, but, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what do you have against an okapi? What did it ever do to you? Why do you want it gone so bad? Whitney, what species would you like to see recover?
I don't really have a specific preference on extinct animals.
That doesn't keep you up at night?
No.
Triceratops, that's my choice.
It's your favorite?
Yeah.
But I feel like nature is cyclical all the time. Like when we've talked about oil spills previously, there was a huge oil spill in Mexico that, a decade later they said they'd never recover from. Totally fine. Nature has a great way of bouncing back. So maybe what we're doing to the planet really isn't that bad after all.
Yeah, or maybe we didn't go deep enough underwater. And there were things we never knew existed. We called them extinct before we never knew they were there. Stuff happens. Anyway, there's another new study out recently saying that they have found a way to help developing countries to get up on their feet and really become industrialized over time. And the old adage was that groups like central banks around the world would come together and via the International Monetary Fund, via the World Bank, they would send this money out in the marketplace to your favorite petty dictator, and he would fix the way things were. And, he would develop the nation. The problem is the money doesn't ever get to the people, it doesn't seem like. And they are now discovering that was one organization, the Tata Group, which is Tata Group. Anyway, they're in India. They have come up with a series of products. One is a water filtration system. They sell for $22 annually. You have to replace it with a $6 filter. And because of the lack of clean water in India and these other parts of the developing world, this thing is selling like hotcakes. What they're finding out is that if you would just flood the market with cheap goods that people want, you could help develop these countries. So where should the money be going? That's the question here. And Leek, I know you're a big fan of big business, so I'm going to throw it to you first.
Well, I'm a fan of free market forces that address the priority of needs as they vary from location to location. It is the one part of the tagline is cheap products, but the second part is cheap products that address a need that is at the top of the priority list for the location. When you talk about, not everything has to be this highly sophisticated thing that people put at the water connection at the street or some Alpharetta home. It's very basic. It's clean water. It's immunizations. It's things like that. So and basically, the kind of the triangle of movement economically used to be raw materials to the developed world. Where the developed world experienced the profit margins. Well, now I think we've gotten to the point in technology where there's the ability to develop a different triangle, which is the developed world has so much technology that it can do cheaply which used to take a lot of money. It used to take a lot of money to create clean water. Now it's very easy and very economically feasible to do that. So now you take something that the developed world does very well, you ship it to the third world, and finally you can lower, just basic things like infant mortality rates.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, it costs money to fight that sort of thing, and it's disruptive to society.
Or you just take mom and pop who lost their job at their little grocery. They're now greeting at the front door of Walmart, and they reopen their shop. In
And quite frankly,
part of Africa.
it's Maslow's priority of needs. If you're no longer focused on infant mortality, then you can spend more time in the fields or at work, or you can do something else, and the standard of living moves up, and then you get on to the next problem.
Here's the thing, Nate. That honestly, and I kind of asked the question early on facetiously, because the big guys, why do the small? You need to send the money where the positive PR is needed the most.
Right.
And the petty dictators are hurting for positive PR. If you're going to send it anywhere, send it there. You've got to develop some faith in the government model that's been put in place, right? So you got to send it to the right place first. And honestly, if you're sending the money to where credit is where the credit may be not needed as much, it's a waste of money anyway, right? Trying to develop a strong government model.
Well, like they say, the road to hell was paved with good intentions, right?
Some of them say.
Well, it's a great idea, I think, but ultimately, I think it's a level of control from the people that are going to be supplying these water filters to filter our clean water, and also it shines like a positive light on the people that were creating the undeveloped third world countries from developing in the first place. So, if you ask me. Honestly, I think that if they just stay out of their business in the first place and just let them develop and let them grow, I think that they would probably be okay.
Because it's happening internally, either way. Whitney, where do you send the money? Do you still invest in from outside? Do you invest in these small business startups, or do you just kind of let them go, let them develop what the needs are around them because they understand it best? Or
Small business startups, meaning like the people making the water filter
like the
systems.
Tata Group.
Well, I think it's a business decision. Are you talking about government sending the money to them?
Yeah,
or?
sending the money. Well, if they're going to invest the money in these countries anyway, they're trying to raise the standard.
Tata's a big. They make cars in India. So the IMF. I know everybody's conservatives and Ron Paul's love the IMF, but they used to have a program for third world countries where they called them microloans, and you can. A lot of times, $1,000, it won't start a business in the United States, but if you give somebody $1,000 in a third world country like India or maybe even China or some of the, some of the African nations, and it's a start of money for them to at least buy inventory, that is a project that has some potential. It's basically, where's the IMF getting their money from, and, do we really want them giving these microloans out? But Tata's, they're a huge manufacturing company in India, so them doing it, that's just they're like GM basically, except maybe not owned by the U.S. government.
Well, and the model they say here is that how do you do this? How do you bring cheap goods into the market? You start out by simplifying the product and designing a product. You figure out what it costs to make, and you do it as close to the cost of the product production as possible, and just flood the market with it. So basically, it's as simple as selling it for next to nothing and spending less than nothing to make it.
Well,
so it probably falls somewhere in the middle at nothing.
There's a concept in the USAID kind of community known as, we're familiar with state of the art, but you can make it feasible for corporations to do a good deed, and at the same time make it affordable for countries where the standard of living is lower by going state of the shelf. Kind of rather than going next gen, you go current gen, or you go current gen minus one. Yeah. Seriously. So, minus gen.
Give them the iPhone 1 instead of the iPhone 2.
Yeah, and at the same time,
they didn't know the other one existed. They're okay with that.
So, to continue the analogy, iPhone 2G is still an uptick in productivity from where they were. Actually, this goes back to previous discussions. Would you rather have, kind of mediocre insurance or no insurance? For people who get mediocre insurance, that's pretty good financing, because that's a place, it may be the only thing, it may be the only place where the IMF works.
Yeah,
the IMF has trouble when they go big scale and just dump billions of dollars on dictators and human rights violators.
Yeah.
But on the microfinancing thing, that is something with a proven track record that works.
And what we're ultimately talking about is raising the standard of living. You have more time on your hands at this point. There's a lot of other innovation that can happen after that. We'll see you tomorrow on the Hub.
Nigga, you know you drive me crazy. Whoa, whoa.